Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers. We are back into the series experimenting with torpedoes. And in this episode, I fully intend, I know I've said this before, but I fully intend to get into the actual messing around with the torpedoes. How do we build these damn things? So, anyway, I have a few mock-ups which I want to just quickly describe for you because they're kind of static. So I've done a lot of playing around with how all the different pieces fit together. So I wanted to actually share with you what some of these look like. So let me grab a couple pieces. I'm going to use the large one, even though on our bomber here is a small ship, and we will ultimately upgrade the bomber to handle everything, which is to say all of these small missiles. But for this demonstration, I just want to use these large missiles because they're a lot easier to see. So sorry. Okay, there's paste that one in. So what is this thing? So this is what I call the thruster package. So I kind of, at first I was considering, okay, let me just build a torpedo. And as I really got to playing with it and seeing some of the flexibility that is available within the mod, I was thinking, no, I'm going to go ahead and actually build using a modular concept, because certain things don't change. So a thruster package is a thruster package is a thruster package. There's only so many different variations you can do. So I figured it would save me some build time if I built things from the perspective of a modular approach. So what we have here is the hybrid main thruster. Okay, so if I read everything correctly, this is just as effective in space as it is in atmospheres. We have a booster. The arrow here on the booster really does have a purpose. So this is boosting this one. So the arrow is pointing to that. Okay, so and if you missed that section in the previous episode where I was showing you the missile ship, then that was out of there. So that's where I discovered how these work. This is a thruster payload package, so it has these 5. Now, as far as I can tell, these are ion thrusters. Now, let me go ahead and bring up the mod here. Now the mod, as I speak about it, is actually 2 mods. So there is the Torpedo Parts, and it's actually called Large Torpedo Parts, but this mod has been updated by somebody associated with the original folks. Volg, I think, was the original mod builder for this, and as we get playing around, anything I build that ends up on the Steam Workshop already has the links to both of the mods, which is really to say the updated mod, because there's actually a link in the updated mod to the original mod. So if you just want to use the original mod. So this particular mod includes the large blocks, as the title would imply, but also includes the small blocks of the same. So now you can work with both large blocks and small blocks and build to your heart's content using a single mod. Now there's a guidance mod which adds a guidance block, which you see up here in the top corner, torpedo payload guidance, and that singular block will completely change the way you play with these torpedoes, missiles, whatever you want to call them, because it kind of adds an AI functionality to this, including it will lock on to a target. It might not be the target you want, but it is a target, so you have to look carefully at what it has locked onto, and then it will control a lot of the functionality. which is to say it will disconnect the right now the closest in block that is the merge block. Okay, so it's called in this case the CC interface, but this is the closest block that it will find because it's part of the missile, part of the torpedo, and it will turn that off, which will let you launch the missile. And then it will home in on the target at however much thrust it needs, and using the gyros to keep itself stabilized. Now, I've had some issues, so it's not perfect, you know, guiding everything in. I've seen some really strange things that I can't explain. Sometimes they work great, sometimes they don't work, sometimes they completely miss the target. So I don't know what actually is causing some of these things. It may be something in the game that is a little bit broken, and as you read the different concepts or comments, obviously this is beta. They make a lot of changes, which is to say Keen Software House makes a lot of changes to the game, which is good. It adds some stability to the game, adds some optimizations, that sort of thing. So those kind of changes, yes, are good. But some of those changes that they make break mods. And so the mod authors get very frustrated, and I can relate. I'm a mod author myself, which is to say I have a mod that I use, not really published out there, but I use it because it helps me have a lot more fun. So the idea of the game is to have fun. So when I'm using my mod, I'm just having fun for sake of fun. But my mod, like a lot of others that are infinitely more complex than mine are simple by compare, breaks mods, and it's very frustrating because then the mod makers, designers, authors have to go back through, figure out what's wrong, and make appropriate changes to unbreak it. So I can see why it's very frustrating. So anyway, babble. I recommend, and again the links will be there, but I recommend both the mods together. This updated one where it has both the large and small blocks. That way you don't have to run two mods. And there is the small block version of this out there still, so you could technically run 3 independent mods: the original large block mod, the original small block mod, and then the guidance mod, which has the guidance block for both. As far as I can tell, the guidance block is a single block. So if you're not intending to have guided missiles, then you don't need that one, but I highly recommend it because it's a lot of fun. Especially if you like to blow stuff up, then that guidance block will make your entertainment value escalate quite a bit. So anyway, back to what I was describing here. So a thruster package is a thruster package. Oh, sorry, I got sidetracked. So there are 2 different kinds of thruster packages as far as I can tell. So we have these ones called atmospheric. I have not figured out how to use these lateral ones. They just they don't work for me, and I'm not sure if they're broken or something else. So there's actually 2 sets of lateral. Now it says lateral thruster without really identifying what it is, but they appear to be ion thrusters, and I don't know if that's true or not. Here's the main thruster. Excuse me, main thruster. So atmospheric versus main, and then we have this one hybrid. So atmospheric hybrid main thruster. There isn't a payload thruster that is the hybrid. Okay, so I have been using this one. Whether it will actually work in an atmosphere or not, I don't know. I'm guessing not, because it appears to be the little blue flame. It appears to be an ion thruster. So if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, some of the ion thrusters that didn't get updated with all the new code and everything within the actual descriptors still worked in the atmosphere. So I've seen a lot of these of the mod, like the armor ion thrusters, for example, and the slope ion armor thrusters. Those still work in the atmosphere because they are about thrust, not about defining exactly what they are. So if you actually go in and change the code and update them with all the code that says this is an ion thruster, then magically it stops working in the atmosphere. So I think if these did not get that update into them, if the mod author did not update their code in the cube blocks file, then likely these still work in the atmosphere. I have not played any in the atmosphere, and we may actually do that eventually. In fact, I would like to do that within the series because, after all, we did make this bomber, and the bomber is absolutely atmospheric capable. After all, it has wings on it. So I really do want to test it out, but because, after all, a bomber needs a payload, we have to figure that out. And then get those newly made torpedoes put onto the bomber, installed correctly, which is to say, really the projectors. Get all the projectors set up, and it's not that it's so terribly difficult, and we're going to try and walk through a couple of those, but it is time consuming. So you know, any walkthroughs are a bit time consuming. All right, so thruster payload here. It's using what I believe are the ion thrusters for the payload package. So anyway, so this is a thruster package. In contrast, we have the warhead package. So small, large warhead. Now there's two different types of warheads, and it's kind of hard to see. So unfortunately, two different kinds of warhead packages, and let me go ahead and spawn in the other one and tell you a little bit about it, and of course facing the other way. There we go. Alright, so you can see the differences right off the bat. So the top one here is what I call the Warhead Module, and it is that non-explosive penetrator, they call it, and behind it is batteries. Okay, so it's got the merge block there, the merge cylinder as it's called, and I put 4 batteries in it. Why did I put 4 batteries in it? Well, I got to put something in it. So I could have left those blank, but I tend to, if I have a space and I can fill it with something useful, then I tend to do that. So that one ended up with batteries in it. This bottom one here is the explosive penetrator. And on the explosive penetrator is the same merge cylinder, and that merge cylinder, of course, has 4 slots in it that you can put the payloads into, the payload blocks into. And in this case, I have 4 warhead payload blocks. And one of the things I attempted to do, make sure I did that on this, was, yes, I did. So torpedo warheads. What does torpedo warheads do for you? It's a group. So when you set up your final product, you can actually set that group onto your toolbar with the arm button. Obviously a warhead, as they say in Space Engineers, a warhead is perfectly safe until it's armed. Because the purpose of lobbing a torpedo or a missile at somebody is not to be safe, you want to blow them to smithereens. So we want to make sure we arm our warheads before it gets to them. So having that arm functionality, in this case, it works out to 5 different warheads, because your warhead is a warhead, the penetrator, and then you have these 4 auxiliary warheads that hopefully detonate at about the same time. But again, you have to arm them. If they're not armed, they're kind of useless. Um, anyway, these are the two warhead packages. So the inert one, which is just a penetrator on the top, does not blow up, and then this bottom one, which blows up. Obviously you could get pretty creative with all of these. You could put as many warheads as you really wanted. I don't know the destructive force in the end. How do the destructive forces compare with the vanilla warheads? I really have no idea. So there may actually be a test, ram them into an asteroid or something. But I found the holes created within, oh, it's this way, somewhere over here. I see the red. Oh, maybe I don't see the red. Did it wander away? It might have wandered away. I see it there in the reticle. That was my target, and I'm not sure why it went away. So let's do an Alt F10. I'm going to do the grids. Yeah, so it's still there. We're going to teleport there, just so I can show you some of the damage. So this thing is in motion here. All right, so that's mid-space admin mod there that whatever is in the reticle, and I tell it to stop. So anyway, just so you can see some of the various damage. Okay, the last missile to hit this actually damaged it to the point where the reactor in the center of this is gone. So it is no longer powered, which means the antenna is no longer functioning. So this has sustained about 4 missile hits, and as you can tell, so for example, this was one hit that went all the way through. This is 20 blocks through of heavy armor. Okay, went all the way through. So the missiles are pretty serious. This well, I can't see all the different damage here, but clearly there was enough damage that that the reactor and the core of this thing stopped working. Which is why it doesn't show up on anything anymore. So more holes. In fact, this is probably the hole that that finished off the reactor. Be another. We'll kind of go all the way around here and see what we can see. There might be. Nope, not one on the bottom. So anyway, you can see by the damage of this cube and the sheer size of this cube that the torpedoes do have the capability of doing some pretty severe damage. No two ways about it. Anyway, because I'm out here, I'm going to go ahead and delete this because it no longer has a target. It no longer shows up as, it doesn't have a beacon anymore, antenna and beacon. So I definitely want to get rid of all these different things. Okay, I'm going to do a little cleanup here because, so first, next to that 27, 22, which don't show up for some reason. Torpedo, we're going to leave those because we're working with those. We'll leave those because we're working with those. Remove that. Remove, and then we're back to that. All right. So that was our little little moment of cleanup there. Oops. All right. So having done all that, my goal here for this particular episode is to create. So if you see this missile here, this is another large missile, and again, this is the test platform that we've played a little bit with. You notice that this is a solid missile, and what I mean by solid is that it's built as one piece. So it has everything that we just played with up yonder, except the electronics package. So if you think about things in terms of block sizes, so our payload package, which is to say the warhead package on the front here, is 2 blocks for the actual warhead, and then we have a single block that has these 4 additional warheads in it, right? So that's my front, my warhead module. The after portion here, the portion on the left side, is these 3 blocks: the thruster, the thrust booster, and the package assembly for these side thrusters. So 3 blocks wide. Now the warhead module is actually 3 blocks wide as well, because the warhead itself, the penetrator, is 2 blocks. So 2 by 1 by 1. So 3 blocks and 3 blocks. Now, because I kind of like symmetry, I put my actual mount, so the CC interface, in the very center. That means I need to, in this package, makes it a total of 9 blocks, because I can cut 9 blocks in half, right? I've got 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, and then my 1 CC interface in the beginning, in the middle. So what I need to do, and what we're doing for this episode, is actually going to create the electronics package in the center, the guidance package. And we're going to do that by having a merge cylinder on one side, a merge cylinder on the other side, and then the CC interface in the middle. We're going to have 2 different varieties of these. Why 2 varieties, you ask? Because I'm mounting the missile underneath the wings, and I'm also mounting the missile over the wings. So I need one that can do both. Now, is that an OCD thing? Yes, it is. So the reality is I could have one missile, and because most of the missiles are indeed mounted underneath, then do we really need the missile to be different that's mounted over top? No. It could actually launch upside down and then orient itself. It wouldn't actually need to orient itself, because it's a computer. There is no up and down in space. There is only space. So yeah, it's an OCD thing. But because it's part of my quirks, we're going to do it. We're going to have fun. And so we're going to change this one-piece design concept into a completely modular concept. And because we have already completed the thruster package as well as the warhead package, then all we have left to do is complete the electronics package, the actual guidance package. So let's get rid of that one, get rid of that one, and get rid of, whoops, get rid of that one, and sit down and make our pieces. Alright, so what do we need? Let's go into our try to go into the G menu, the toolbar menu. We need the torpedo merge cylinder, which I'm going to drag in there. We need the CC interface, and we need all of the electronics to make this work. So we need our battery, we need our gyro. Because of everything we're doing, we need the camera to give us a little bit of flexibility, the antenna. We also need the remote control, and what else do we need? The guidance chip, guidance block. All right, I think that's all we need to actually complete this this section. So the first thing we're going to do is complete the chassis. Okay, in this case, it's a number 1. It doesn't really matter which way we spin this thing. The only thing that we want to make sure is that this is actually, that's a small block, this is a large block. Right now we're working on the large blocks just so we can see them, and then we're going to mirror this with small blocks. Okay, here's the two, and we're going to spin this thing, so that's the up, and again, up and down being relative, so the actual interface is facing me right now, and we're going to put it on the bottom. Now, again, up and down in space, no such thing, but we're going to just pretend for a moment. Alright, and then we're going to put another merge cylinder on the other side. So if we think about our Warhead module is 3, our thrust package was 3, and now the electronics and guidance section is 3. Alright, so there's the bottom. Now, what do I put on the bottom? Oops, hold on. I did forget one. So my reactor. Forgot that. Alright, so what do we need on the bottom here? Now, we have, if you think about this, we have 4 slots, we have 4 slots, we have 3 slots. Okay, so 4 and 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So we have 11 slots to fill. I have designed just because of, I like things to be just so. If that surprises anybody, then think OCD. So what I have gotten to the point of doing is 6, which is my antenna, and I put the antenna in the aft portion here. One of the things I discovered, so we're going to click on number 5, which is the remote control. And there was actually a video that the Witch did on YouTube, which was one of the original builders, I think, of this mod. So in that mod, he describes how to properly use the remote control. So this arrow, the arrow is real, okay? It has to point forward. Otherwise your missile is going to behave in strange ways, which is really to say is going to confuse the heck out of you, because you're trying to drive this thing and it's not going where you think it's got to go. And also what I learned from his video and playing around is that this is designed to be on the bottom of the chassis. Okay, so it works by being on the bottom, so it needs to be in that bottom slot. So remember that as you are building your own stuff. Alright, and what on the side? Well, I have learned that 2 gyros is plenty for this, so I'm actually going to put battery, and then a gyro in the center. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So, gyro in the center, and then a battery and a battery. So that takes care of my sides. The only thing I have left is the up. So just conventionally, because I want the camera as far forward as we can, I'm going to put the camera in this center block, in the very forward block. The next thing we put in is our guidance computer. The arrow is also important, but it doesn't matter the orientation. So what I mean by that is I could put this on the side, I could put it on the top, I could put it on the bottom. It doesn't matter as long as it's pointing in the direction the missile is going to go. Okay, so that's the only critical thing I've been able to discover about this so far. So that one I put there, and you notice that it is white right now, so the indicator is white. It does actually change colors according to what it's doing. It will turn orange when it is actually target locked. It will turn yellow when it's target locked and is in search and destroy mode. If it is locked and homing, I think it's green. So it actually says on the website, the web page in the Steam Workshop for the guidance mod, what all the different colors are. All right, last but not least, we are going to put a reactor over here. Now, why do we put a reactor in here? Well, we have a lot of batteries, but if this thing were to run for a little while, then theoretically the batteries could run down. So what I want to do is actually put a reactor on here. We're going to go into inventory, which I should have done, and I'm going to put 10,000 ingots into here. So volume is minuscule, about a sixth of the total capacity of the reactor. And then we're going to go back into control panel. Select on anything, it doesn't really matter. And what I'm going to do is Control A, which will bring up everything. And then we're going to shift this over to me. Why is that important? Well, moving stuff around and controlling stuff, if it's set to nobody, then sometimes it does not work as expected. So I like to set it as me, and then I know things are going to work all the time. All right, battery. This is another OCD thing. Battery 1. Okay. I'm going to do recharge and semi-auto, so I'm going to take advantage of that reactor running. And torpedo batteries. Okay. So save that as a group. Before I drop that off the screen, what I want to point out is, so we have max output of 150 megawatts. Okay, I don't know if there's any actual electrical engineers or electrical contractors out there who might be watching this video, but if there are, then you know 150 megawatts is a lot of energy. Okay, so the probability the battery that size could actually produce 150 megawatts is total horse dooku. So not going to happen in a small device. So 100 megawatt range, you are talking a nuclear reactor in real life. Okay, so not realistic. So max required input. So you notice we have, let's in fact go to our reactor here. So this is capable of 5 megawatts, okay, out of this reactor, which is quite a bit. So I think we have 300 megawatts available in the large reactor. Okay, so quite a bit of energy there, but so anyway, I found these to be a bit unrealistic. So why is it 1.24? Because I have 4 batteries. All 4 batteries are trying to charge at this point. So the fact that in the end the stored power is in the kilowatt range, I truly don't know what the mod author had in mind here, but if I have a gripe about the game in general is really truly understanding how much a kilowatt is when it comes to energy. A kilowatt is a lot. You know, the typical house, this is of course talking about the United States, the typical house has a 25 kilowatt transformer. So from the utility service, dropping it down to the voltage which your house can use readily is a 25 kilowatt transformer. Okay, so 25 kilowatts, which runs everything in your house, your air conditioners, everything else, on a usually 200 amp service. So, okay, just to put that into concept here. So 150 megawatts, another order of magnitude, that's a huge amount of electricity. So anyway, babble. So torpedo batteries, toggle the config off and terminal off because we don't need those. Gyros. I'm going to just go ahead and call them 1 and 2, and then we're going to create a torpedo gyro. Save and off and off. Drop that all off the screen. Now merge cylinder. do we really need to know which one this is? And probably not, but this was merge cylinder forward and merge cylinder aft. And again, do we really need to know that? Nope. Payload antenna. I have been, just to be consistent, naming this KTC Torpedo. So we have the camera, the guidance, the reactor, and the remote. Okay, so don't need to change anything else here. Info, because it always gives you a really strange thing here. Now, this is another reason to change it to yourself, because if it's nobody, you can't actually put a name into it. It's just generic. So in this case, it is Torpedo Module. How about module even? And it's a large, and this is guidance section. In fact, let's, because it's already module, so guidance, and this is a bottom interface. Okay. Alright, so we're going to sit right off to the side. We're going to do a Control B, Bravo, and you'll see we now have this guidance bottom interface, okay, in the large torpedo variety. Alright, let's Control X, we'll get rid of that. We're going to rebuild. So we're going to do this. Things are not rotating as expected. Okay, so that's our forward one. We're doing the interface. I'm going to flip that around completely upside down now. And then this is our aft merge block. Alright, so having said that, the top is still the top. So what did I have on the top before? Well, I had the reactor here in the aft thing, that's aft, and then I had the camera in the forward, which is number 7. Spin that around the correct way. Alright, on the side here I had a battery, and then a gyro in the center. We had the exact same thing on this side. We had the gyro in the center. We had battery and a battery. And underneath, so remember this side facing the right here. Okay, let me get down just a little so that sun is out of our eyes. Remember, to the right here is forward, to the left is aft. So what did we have before? Well, we had an antenna here. We had the remote block, remember, has to be underneath and facing the correct direction, so the direction that you intend the missile to go. And in the center here, we are putting our guidance. So you can see there, torpedo payload guidance. And in this case, it's on the bottom because my actual connector, my actual interface is on the top there. Alright, so just like we did before, we're going to do a little bit of configuration here to make my OCD happy. And then, inventory first. We're going to add 10K of material, fissionable material there. And then I guess we'll go ahead and use this interface to do everything. So battery, number 1. Create the group, torpedo, battery, save, off, Control A, change to me, gyro, number 1 and number 2, create the group, torpedo, gyros, save, off and off, and then merge cylinder. So this one is forward, this one is aft. Oops. Caps lock here. Aft. Alright, antenna. This is called simply KTC Torpedo. Very rarely in the antennas do I actually put, this is something I forgot to do on the other one, change it out to 50. Not that it really matters, but 50. So the guidance system will work out to 30 kilometers. So here's the catch. If you want to monitor the progress as it travels that distance, then you're going to have this up that high, and or at least 30, and you have to have like a station antenna or lodge ship antenna that's out that far as well. So you have to be able to hook onto it. All right, enable broadcasting, pretty important. I've run into that where it's not enabled and strange things happen, like you can't link to it at all. All right, so the last thing we need to do is rename this to something that makes sense, which is Torpedo Module. This is a large module. It is guidance with a top interface, right, as opposed to the bottom interface. So I try to keep my naming conventions consistent, as you can see. So we'll back off just a little bit, and then we'll do a Control B as in Bravo, and so here it is, Control Guidance Top. So we're going to do a couple things here. Control X, which will get rid of that. We're going to do F10 again. We're going to bring our bottom back in because I forgot to adjust. There we go. Okay, I didn't actually paste that in right side up, but again, right side up in space is relative, right? So go into K. We are going into the torpedo, which is my antenna. We're going to adjust all the way out, make sure that this is broadcasting enabled. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to communicate with this. You can't link up to the remote, can't do anything with it. All right. So we're going to Control X, which actually deletes this, but as it says there, copy will be stored in clipboard. Do an F10, which will bring this up. Remember, we were dealing with the bottom one, so I'm going to click on that and then click Replace with Clipboard, which will now update my blueprint with the changes that we just made. Alright, so now that we've done all of this, we do want to create the small versions, but let's go ahead and put one together just so we can see how everything works. So let's do a bottom. And the reason I want to do a bottom is because we will actually be able to sit that onto our test platform and check it, right? All right, so we can just click OK. This is our guidance mechanisms for the bottom. We're going to control and move that out just a little bit. I'm going to turn that around just so it is somewhere, do a B so I can have a little more fine-tooth control. In fact, let me get over here relative to, so I'm basically facing what is considered down in this case, so that's not too bad. Alright, and then we'll rotate this around so the camera is indeed facing forward. Everything is down. So I talked earlier, I don't remember if it was the beginning of this episode, I think it was, nope, it wasn't. It was in the last episode where we were playing with the ship. I was talking about how these blocks, so I was incorrect in the first episode when I stated that these are compound blocks. They're actually not compound blocks, so I'm correcting myself. The blocks are next to the block, and they just show up as if they are part of the block, so it's actually just kind of visual. So the block collision zones are actually next to one another, not combined. So if you look at this here, you can see that this is actually a 3 by 3 by 3 grid. So for each of these modules here, right to left, is actually a 3 by 3 by 1. So the block is 1 wide, obviously, and then when you connect on those the payload blocks, then they actually sit out to the side. So 3 by 3 by 1. So anyway, paste this into the world, keeping in mind which is forward, which is aft. So we're going to pick our torpedo, our warhead. In my case, I want to do the explosive one. So we're going to paste this into the world and then paste it on. Bink! There it is. Paste it on. Then we need a thruster package. So in this case, thrust package. Right, large thrust package. Paste it into the world with a Control V. We got to spin it around here, and then book. Okay, so we have in just a couple seconds built this entire torpedo, which is kind of nice. So having a modular design is actually kind of neat. All right, so let's go into this thing. Why does that really matter? I just want to check over all this. I want to check over once again what this says. So 50,000, it is broadcasting. My reactor is putting out the full complement of energy. It still has uranium. Back in. All right, and all of my merge blocks there are accurate. So the only other thing I can do now that I have put this whole thing together, it's named based on the original block that you paste, so the foundation block. So in this case, we're going to call this KTC Torpedo. It is a Mark II torpedo because it's modular. So that was my naming convention. And then I don't know if I actually need, no, sorry, parentheses, large. Don't know if I actually, okay, large, and then this is a bottom interface. Okay. So let me back off enough to have that in the full view, and then we'll do a Control B as in Bravo, and that should show up here. So now we have a Mark II large bottom interface. We can see this is a small version effectively of the same thing. So large and small bottom interface. Yep. All right. So the only other thing that we could do is test, but I do want to build another missile here. So we're going to do a Control X. We're going to do the opposite. So we're actually going to do a top interface. So let me paste that in the world. I'm going to do a B so I can rotate this correctly. This needs to spin all the way around. So I'm effectively facing down here. So we want to spin this around so this is down. Right. And again, pseudo down. Alright, just like before, we want an active warhead package. So bring this over here and paste it on the front. Oops, not sure why that doesn't want to paste. There it is. And then we go back in here and find the thruster package. Control V to paste it in the world, point it there, and of course it's backwards, and then forwards. So paste it on. We want to make the same checks here. So we're checking our antenna, which is 50,000, and broadcasting is enabled. my reactor, putting out the full complement of power into inventory, noticing that it is in fact still got some stuff here. Alright, so the camera is all there, so the only other thing we need to do is rename this guy. So this is the KTC Torpedo Mark II. This is a large and top interface. So, okay. So when we back off just a little bit and take a blueprint of this, we should have it show up in our system as a Torpedo Mark II, because my Mark II are the modular torpedoes versus a singular torpedo, single build, so I can't take it apart. And we have the top interface, so we have large, both bottom and top interface, and just the small bottom. So I haven't built the small. I've got the warheads for the explosive warhead. I don't have the other, and I have the thruster package for the small stuff. So I have not built the inert warhead, and I have not built the two guidance sections. All right, so let us, for sake of demonstration, for just a moment, we're going to turn the projector off. In fact, let's go ahead and jump in here and G. We're going to take our projector and actually add a button to turn this projector on and off. So we're going to do a 7 and turn that off for just a moment. I don't know what the purple is. Purple, that's strange. I have no idea what that's reflecting. Oh, it's gone now. Alright, so my merge block here is free. So it's green, ready to go. I need to select the correct torpedo, so that's a small, this is a large, and of course I'm bottom interfacing. I'm going to do a C, which will control paste that, and then we'll see if we can figure out how to paste this guy in. Okay, so one of the problems is it's facing backwards. Alright. And what I do not know is okay, apparently I'm not going to be able to do that in a conventional fashion. So here's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna be Mr. Crazy Man, and we're gonna watch everything that goes on here. I'm gonna bring up my interface. I'm gonna see if I can actually link with it, which I can. So we're gonna remote control, take control, alright, and oh darn. So strangely enough, sometimes I truly have no idea. So we drive this thing back over. So of course we have no reverse thrust, and sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't, so this is another strange, interesting thing. I mean, logically it would matter, but so the fact that you can't just paste these on here is going to be interesting. Alright, so I'm going to just, because, swing this thing around. Alright, I did not put a... Alright, so we're going to have a little fun. So let me go back into my menu. Warheads. We're going to do an arm warhead. Okay, so the warheads now are armed. So let me do some G stuff here, which is to say get everything in here. So warheads, we want to arm, disarm. They are armed, as we can see here. We're going to do all blocks and grab our camera and bring this down and view, and just for sake of convention, lock on and launch. So in this case we don't have anything to lock on to because it's looking for a grid. Escape. I don't believe it will lock. So let me go ahead and try. No, it will not lock because I don't have anything there to lock on. But I'm going to accelerate and move myself forward. I have already armed. So you can see that this is really starting to rock and roll. I am aiming directly for the asteroid. So my payload is armed, and I'm going to guide this all the way in and hopefully make another hole. Alright, so in this case we're going to rotate over here, and you can see this particular thing, so we're going to roll back around. Let's go ahead and take a trip over here. It's going to take me a few seconds to get over here. And I just want to see the damage that was done, see if it was appreciable or just nothing. And given the shadow here, it looks like it actually did a fair bit of damage. Didn't quite take the side off the thing, but not sure what that is. Oh, it's just an asteroid that's a smaller one. All right. Closer. So we can see the impact crater here, which is not as impressive as I was hoping for. So considering the sheer damage it did to our big target block, I'm actually a little surprised. So speaking of target block, let's go ahead and bring one of those into the world. And we can paste that here. Now this belongs to nobody currently. So what I'm going to do is get a control panel. We'll blank all these out because we're done with those. I mean, I'm not, but I will probably build the small ones off screen, so that way I don't bore you all completely to death. All right, so 9 to bring this up here. We'll place it up here in the corner. The reason for this is that otherwise you have no way to access anything. So Obviously you can see there's a very few things here. The target in this case is the antenna. So you see it's an antenna. It is set to 50,000, but is also set to nobody. So in this case we're going to set it to Space Pirates. Yes. Right, so all of a sudden everything becomes access denied. Not a surprise. And one of the things I do want to do is just to test. Oops, character tools perhaps. One of the things that I discovered earlier was for some reason, so you can see that this little area is being damaged. I'm putting a whole lot of lead down the range there, but so it is deforming. But this is heavy armor, so it takes quite a bit to deform. But I was having trouble. I was doing some testing earlier with missiles, also off screen, and I lobbed like 4 missiles at one of these blocks, and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. Not a scratch. So I'm not sure what that was. I checked all my settings, and the blocks are set to destructible. So don't know what happened. So I respawned another block, killed that block, and then everything was fine. Alright, so using the you can see the in fact, just for fun, there's a warhead. I just want to compare. So we have our explosion crater there. So what I'm going to do is put this right here. And what I want to do is see the equivalent of a singular warhead here. So remember, they're perfectly safe until they're armed. So I'm not only going to arm, but we have a 10-second countdown timer. So start countdown. And now we're going to back away because I don't want to die here. Alright, so I would say a comparable explosion crater. Not quite, but comparable. So obviously this is the vanilla in-game warhead versus the warhead. Actually, they look almost identical. So the only thing I would have for the criticism is, did those secondary, those 4 around the back, actually detonate? And I'm not sure they did. Of course, I don't know what the blast of the nose cone would be. So that's something that I would either have to look up or play with it. So, all right. So we can see we have a target here. Just to save a couple seconds in time. So that's the next one, and the next one I'm going to teleport here just to save a tiny bit of time. And let's do approximately the same thing again. And this time, F10, we have a torpedo bottom, which doesn't really matter because we're not hooking it up, but it's our Mark III torpedo, or Mark II torpedo, I can't read, V. I'm going to spin this around because what I want to do is to have this thing so it can actually lock on guidance-wise. Now, if everything is equal, I just pasted this in. I want to see if I can link up to it with no changes, and it looks like I can. Alright, so remote control, and power. Okay, so we're going to do two things, which are the same things we did before. I'm gonna omit the nope, I'm not. Sorry. Change script on you. And then groups, which is warheads. Okay. In this case, this is the arm or disarm. So we are now in remote control of this. Now I don't know if I can guide it all the way in because that is 6 kilometers away. So we're going to go to camera view, which is seeing everything here. We're going to do a lock on target, which is 5. It has indeed locked on the target. And then we're going to go to launch, which is number 6. Okay, so I can see speeding up. I can see the guidance is getting the reticle almost on target, and it's on target. And because I'm writing this in, I'm going to go ahead and arm the missiles. And we wait. All right. The good news is it looked like we had a direct hit. The bad news is the damage was apparently limited enough that the reactor and the antenna are still intact. So that one that blasted all the way through all those blocks may indeed have been a fluke. Alright, so having ridden that one all the way in, suicide sled there, let's go. Whoa, there's a small hole, but I bet it's bigger than it appears. So teleport here and player control. And we're going to come down here and look and see. Alright, so remember this is 20 layers across of heavy armor. Okay, so the fact that this is coming in here. So we have tiger orange, then yellow, then blue, then red, then gray, then green, then yellow. Okay, back into the center here. So we are talking about having penetrated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 layers deep. 9 layers of heavy armor. So I think that's pretty impressive. Given the fact that most ships are 1 layer, if they're really over-engineering things, 2 layers of heavy armor, right? This thing just went through 9 layers. Big hole in this target block. Okay, so pretty impressive. So even given the fact that we didn't make a huge hole in the side of the asteroid here, the fact that we do some pretty serious damage to the blocks here is, I think it's pretty impressive. Alright, so alright, by comparative, I lost my stuff. Okay, F10 again. We're going to go next, teleport and player control. The next thing I want to do, and this is more for the sake of a comparative between our 2 missile types. So we have a Mark II small bottom. So this is the equivalent of the one that we just shot, except it is a small torpedo. So let me do a B. We're going to rotate this. All right. So we'll get that there. The thing I don't know if we're going to be able to do. Apparently so. We'll go ahead and check. The antenna is 500, so that would never work. Broadcasting is on. Remote. We're going to go ahead and go into control. We're going to program this. So our torpedo, our camera, sorry. We're going to do guidance lock on, guidance launch, and finally our group blocks, which is our torpedo warheads, which is arm. And just for, oh darn. Sorry, that was my bust. I was in control of the missile here, and I was thinking I was not in control of the missile. All right, so I'm going to do the Control C. So that is my small missile. Do an F10. That is this missile here. So I'm going to click and then replace with clipboard. So hopefully the next time I spawn that one into the world, I will actually be able to control everything. So I won't have to reset everything up. So, okay, again, to get into this window, we're going to go here, remote, take control. So those options are still there. I want to go ahead and bring the nose down because I want to actually bring this into the world here. In this case, I am not going to lock on with the guidance system, so I'm arming the torpedoes, arming the warheads here. So what I want to do is see if I can aim for a slightly different spot on here, and see what happens. Oh, okay. Okay. It looks like it impacted. The fade out there was, I think, related to my own suit, which has a very limited ability to broadcast. So I think that's why I lost touch with the... okay, we did end up with a different hole, which I'm glad. So we can actually see the differential between the large, wow, big difference between the large and the small. Still impressive, I think. So let's go ahead and get close here, and this is just to get it out of the way. Scrap metal, can't really do anything with scrap metal. All right, so let us consider. This is heavy armor. And we have damage. Okay, so we go tiger, orange, yellow, blue, red, and then is that green underneath there? So blue, then red, then something. So in a portion of this, we are down to the green, which is what, 7 layers deep? So a very small hole, but you can see that we have obliterated the first 2 layers. This is heavy armor. We have damaged to the extreme the 3rd layer, which is blue, and then we have punched a hole down here, an additional, looks like 3 layers deep. So really very impressive, even for a small warhead. Not quite as impressive as 9 layers, but impressive nonetheless. So needless to say that if we set off one of these little firecrackers into virtually any ship, whether it be heavily armored or lightly armored, I can't even imagine what things would look like lightly armored. Just go right through them, I would guess. but even heavy. You know, how many people build ships that are multiple layers thick? So this is pretty impressive. So this video is a little bit of play, testing of the weapons, which I think you'll agree with me that this is pretty impressive. So fun little toys. So I'm a bit over an hour, so we're going to go ahead and call it quits here, and we'll play a little bit more later with the bomber. I think we'll get back into the bomber on the next episode, and then see if we can do a bombing run here, which should be fun. I think fun. So, this is Kenty Tiger signing off, and we will see you next time.